Imagine this. You wake up on November 18th, 2025, and for all intents and purposes, the internet is just broken. Sounds like a sci-fi movie, right? Well, for millions of people, it felt very, very real. So what actually happened? Let's break it down.
This whole thing started with one big question that pretty much everyone was asking. You go to scroll X, you try to put on some music with Spotify, maybe you ask ChatGPT a question, and you get nothing, just an error. How on earth could so many huge, totally unrelated services all just die at the exact same time?
All right, so let's start with the symptoms because honestly, the sheer scale of this outage is what threw everyone for such a loop. And just look at this list, it's wild. We're talking social media giants like X and Facebook, music, AI tools like ChatGPT, even online gaming and betting. This wasn't just some little corner of the web having a bad day. This was a huge part of our digital lives just blinking out of existence.
And we're not talking about a few people noticing. No way. Within minutes, tracking sites like Downdetector were just flooded. Over 10,000 initial reports from people who suddenly couldn't get to their favorite websites and apps. The problem was immediate, and it was huge.
I think the most frustrating part for everyone was that initial confusion, right? You're sitting there thinking, is my Wi-Fi down? Did my phone just break? It took a little while for us all to realize, nope, this isn't a me problem. This was something much, much bigger. And the reason for it was totally invisible.
But then, out of all that chaos, a single clue started popping up. A name that would basically unlock this whole mystery.
And this was it. This was the moment everything changed. Across all these different services, people started seeing the exact same error message. It wasn't a Spotify problem or a Twitter problem. It was an internal server error on Cloudflare's network. Now, for most of us, that name, Cloudflare, probably means absolutely nothing. But for the folks who run the internet, oh, that was the smoking gun. Yep, Cloudflare. This one company, a name most of us have probably never even heard before, turned out to be the single weak link that could bring a huge chunk of the internet to a screeching halt. Okay, so this begs the question, who or what is Cloudflare? Let's dive in and pull back the curtain on this invisible guardian of the web. So, in the simplest terms, think of Cloudflare like the internet's ultimate bouncer and traffic director, all rolled into one. It's an infrastructure company that sits in the middle, between you and the website you're trying to visit, doing a bunch of critical jobs behind the scenes to keep things running smoothly. So what does it actually do? Well, a few crucial things. For one, it acts like a shield, protecting websites from cyber attacks. Second, if a site suddenly gets a massive flood of visitors, Cloudflare acts like a traffic cop to make sure the site doesn't crash. And third, it speeds everything up by storing copies of websites all over the world so they load faster for you. It's designed to be totally invisible, which is kind of the whole point. And if you're wondering just how big a deal this company is, get this. Cloudflare handles services for roughly 20% of all websites on the internet. That's right, about a fifth of the entire web relies on this one company just to stay online. That is a massive number. And if you look at the data from Downdetector, it tells the story perfectly. Over 60% of the problems people reported were about server connection. That proves this wasn't an issue with Spotify's website or Twitter's app. It was a problem with the fundamental connection to those sites, the connection that Cloudflare was managing. All right, so all of this brings us to the verdict. What this one event did was expose a massive systemic weakness, kind of like the internet's Achilles heel. This quote here from Graham Stewart, a cybersecurity expert, just nails it. He points out this huge contradiction at the heart of the modern web. The internet was designed to be spread out, to be decentralized, so that one failure couldn't bring the whole thing down. But that's not really the internet we've built, is it? You see, this really gets to the heart of the problem. The whole promise of the internet. The original idea was this beautiful, decentralized web that was super resilient. If one path for data broke, no big deal. It would just find another way. But the reality? We've basically done the opposite. We've funneled so much of the web's traffic and infrastructure through just a handful of giant companies, creating these massive single points of failure. So here's the real takeaway from all of this. The problem wasn't that Twitter and Spotify and a dozen other sites all happened to break on their own. No. The problem was that the one, single, invisible layer that they all stand on, that's what failed. And when that foundation cracks,
everything built on top of it comes crashing down.
And that leaves us with this really big, kind of unsettling question. In our race to make the internet faster and safer, have we accidentally made it more fragile? Has the web become way too dependent on just a few invisible giants? It's definitely something to think about the next time your favorite app just stops working.